Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on this live product demo session where we'll do a deep dive into our new functionality in terms of policy automation and security compliance checks. My name is Daniel, and I'm the product manager here at Syskit. Today with me, I'm joined with our product design lead, Alexandra, who is going to guide us through the demo.
Hi, everyone.
So many of you already know us as a company, but for those of you who don't, let me just briefly introduce Syskit to you. Syskit is a software development company that was founded more than 14 years ago, and we create innovative, high quality, and easy to use governance and management solutions for Microsoft 365 and SharePoint. We are currently trusted by more than 3,800 customers around the world, some of which you can see here on the right-hand side. Our flagship product is Syskit Point, and Syskit Point is a management and governance platform for Microsoft 365. It helps organizations of any size with fast-growing environments, and especially in high regulated industries, to get better control over user access, inventory, and management across multiple Microsoft 365 workspaces, as well as to inform different governance policies. It also provides deep visibility, easy cleanup, and control over existing external collaboration, oversharing, and user access. But most importantly, it helps you keep your environment clean and properly governed from the creation and to the end of life of your Microsoft 365 workspaces. Just before we start with our today's topics, just a couple of housekeeping rules. As always, all registrants will receive a recording of this demo session. And at the end of the webinar, we will have a Q&A session. So please use the Q&A function to ask us any questions. Also, as a product team, we are always in search for feedback and to better understand your challenges. So you can also use Q&A functions to let us know what are your current challenges with Microsoft 365. Going forward to what we have prepared for you today, we'll briefly talk about how you can ensure that appropriate policies are always applied to your workspaces using Syskit Point, regardless how or when the workspaces has been created. Also, we'll discuss how you can proactively assess any potential misalignments with best practices and take appropriate actions to mitigate those vulnerabilities. Alex is then going to guide us through our updated design, as well as the use cases where you'll be able to see some examples of how our new functionalities work. We'll end the webinar with the update on our future plans and what we are currently researching to potentially build in the future. Again, your feedback has been invaluable to us in guiding us on this journey so far. So please don't be shy to use the Q&A function to let us know what are your current challenges so that we can see how best to address them in the future. And now, let's start with the session. So if you have been with us on our previous product sessions, you know that this year we have been focusing on making the workspace lifecycle management as easy as possible, both for the end users as well as for the IT teams. Beginning of this year, we launched our self-service workspace center, which helps end users search for already existing workspaces and request access to those workspaces. By doing this, we are helping IT teams to cut sprawl in its roots during the creation phase of a workspace. And now, with this release, we are focusing more on the maintenance side and the maintenance phase of the workspace lifecycle management. So let's briefly discuss what were those challenges with the maintenance phase that we heard most often. Firstly, larger organizations had issues with ensuring that the right policies were always applied to the workspace from the moment those workspaces were created, but also that those policies are consistently updated if a workspace property changes. So we frequently received feedback that while it's awesome that Syskit Point with its provisioning can automatically assign different policies when the workspace is created, it's very difficult to monitor workspace once they have been created and assure that those workspaces did not change in a way that would require different policies to be applied. Furthermore, IT teams had to manually apply policies to workspaces that already existed before they implemented Syskit provisioning. Also, if some of the workspaces were not provisioned via our provisioning, IT teams also had to ensure that the appropriate policies were continuously assigned to those workspaces. And as you know, manual application of governance policies on large environments is very, very time consuming. It's often error prone and can lead to some very costly mistakes. For larger organizations, manual application of these governance policies was nearly impossible due to the sheer number of the workspaces they are managing. So those workspaces are being created and changed on a daily basis. This lack of consistent and timely enforcements created compliance risks for many organizations that we talked to. The other challenge was around having deep visibility into all workspaces that do not meet industry best practices. Although in most organizations, owners are responsible for maintaining their workspaces, we all know that owners sometimes forget to do these tasks, and keeping a track and collecting information about the security and compliance state of the entire environment was very, very time consuming and often very repetitive tasks for the IT teams. So with our current release, we wanted to tackle those two challenges. To tackle the first challenge, with consistent policy application, regardless when and how the workspace has been created, we have released policy automation. Policy automation enables IT teams to define a set of rules and conditions based on which Syskit Point will automatically apply certain policies. This basically eliminates the need for consistent day-to-day manual monitoring of workspace to see if some properties have changed in a way that requires different policies to be applied. So for example, for a team, if you have a rule, for a team with privacy set as private, apply monthly access review policy. What this means is that when Point detects a private team, regardless how and when it was created, it will apply monthly access review policy. At this moment, conditions that you can choose in these rules are workspace type, privacy, sharing settings, URL, workspace name, but soon we will be releasing an update which will include other conditions such as custom metadata, which you can add currently to Syskit Point, some pre-calculated values, for example, number of guest users, or some date fields, so that you can further fine-tune these rules to better meet your, let's say, governance policies within your organization. The other challenge was tackling the other challenge of having better visibility into misalignments with industry standards and any potential vulnerabilities. To tackle that, we have created a new security and compliance dashboard. So security and compliance dashboard basically works together with policy automation to show you vulnerabilities across your tenant based on your setup, so that and the policies that you have applied. It gives you a high-level overview, but also allows you to drill deeper, providing deep visibility into any potential vulnerability in your tenant. It also gives you the ability to act quickly and keep your environment secure and under control, either by taking some sort of manual actions or by applying automated policies to include owners in resolving these tasks on time. Also, by utilizing bulk actions, like you can do in most of our reports, IT teams can quickly address any vulnerability on their tenant, or they can delegate these tasks to the end users. So now with that, I believe it's enough talk, and let's move to Alex for the live demo. So Alex, over to you.
Thank you, Daniel. Not enough talk, but also some demo as well here. So thank you, Daniel, for the great presentation. I'm thrilled now to move on with the demo to actually show you guys all the powerful new features that Daniel mentioned, but also to unveil the fresh face of Syskit Point, which was designed following our recent company rebranding. As most of you on this webinar are familiar with our product, I'm sure you're aware that over the years, Syskit Point has undergone quite a remarkable transformation. It evolved from a quite robust reporting and permissions management tool into what we have today, and that is an all-in-one scalable platform that supports visibility, security, and governance of your Microsoft 365 environments. And as always, the feedback that you, our community, provided has been invaluable in guiding our journey to what we will show today. So thank you once again for that. Now let's move on to the actual demo. I will now share my screen. All right. So welcome to the bright and fresh Syskit Points interface. Besides the obvious visual makeover you're seeing with a fresh color palette, our planning, sketching, and months of rigorous testing efforts resulted in the centerpiece of this transformation being the new homepage where we landed just now. It was designed to provide you with a seamless experience and to serve as a great starting point for your work in our platform. What you're getting here is a holistic view of your M365 ecosystem, which we believe will empower you to make informed decisions and take actions with confidence. To make your life easier, we also moved the navigation to the left-hand side, ensuring faster access to all the tools and features that you need. So no more hunting for options. Everything you need is at your fingertips, or we can even say just a click away. Within this dynamic dashboard, you will discover a number of insights and functionalities. To put it even simpler, you will get a bigger picture, so you can easily identify all the workspaces, but also your users and how they're collaborating with people outside of your organization. Another thing you can keep an eye on is your storage status, just to be sure that you always know where you're at. And we do have some exciting updates for storage in the pipeline, and it's already in development. We were talking to many of you and listening to your needs regarding storage management, and Daniel will actually briefly get back to it when we plan to implement this, after this demo. Okay, what else? Another thing you can keep an eye on is your license usage. It's a breeze with these real-time updates that help you keep an eye on where your resources are allocated and potentially even help you save on the licensing cost as well. And finally, you have this handy overview into governance-related info like lifecycle management and access review. But what we would like to talk mostly about today is the new security and compliance style, which we placed or integrated right into this homepage dashboard. As Daniel mentioned, this is one of our newest features, and from our point of view, it serves as some kind of an early warning system to boost up your security. You are getting, once again, real-time info on how safe and compliant your current setup is, so you can protect your organization's data and operations with confidence. What you're seeing here is the list or the number of workspaces that we identified have some potential vulnerabilities. So they're divided based on severity. You can see the high, medium, and low risk workspaces. You can also automate this process by delegating some of the work, which I will show you now, to your site owners, but we'll get to it in a second. So let's see where this tile leads us. All right, now we landed on a security and compliance dashboard where you're seeing that 102 of your workspaces are not compliant with one or another policy that you set up for your environment. You can then filter, once again, based on the severity to see only high, medium, or low risk workspaces. The number that you're seeing here is a total number of workspaces that are not in line, in this case, with the inactive guest user policy you applied. You can see how many of them were detected in the last 30 days. You can see the severity and category. One thing that I need to emphasize is that these severities were predefined by us, but you can easily change them if you go, for example, here to our settings page. And in your case, maybe orphaned workspaces shouldn't have the high severity. You can edit it and make sure it fits your organization's need, change it to low or medium, whatever works for you in this case. Okay, now let's dive deeper into one of these vulnerabilities. So let's say that we want to focus on the 44 workspaces that have less owners than you specified. Once again, you're seeing the total number. You can filter by only selecting the teams or M365 groups here, and you get this kind of educational component. So why should you even be doing this? Why is it the best practice to have 2 owners? And it is the best practice because it provides some kind of a backup in case one owner is unavailable or leaves your organization. So once you know why you should do this, let's see how you can actually do it. For this demo, we'll focus on this group called engineering team. We can see that the system detected 5 days ago that this team group, is not compliant with a minimum 2 owners policy. It only has 1 owner. What you can do here is, first of all, if you're unsure of who the second owner should be, you do not have the operational knowledge, you can simply hit Ask Owners, which will ask the existing workspace owner to add an additional one. So that person actually will receive an email with a task saying, hey, you're the sole owner here. Please add another person to be compliant with this policy. That will happen if you select Ask Owners. Another thing you can do is to streamline this process in the future is to set up the automation, which will then periodically ask existing workspace owners to choose the additional ones for their workspaces. So this will happen automatically for all the workspaces that have the minimum 2 owners policy applied. What this looks like in practice, I actually did this for the asked owners for these 3 themes, and I can see that I'm still awaiting response, who it was assigned to, and I can send a reminder for that person to resolve this task. All right, second thing you can do here is, if for any reason you think that engineering team should have only 1 owner, this is an exception for you. You can accept the risk for this team, which means that you will no longer see it here on this dashboard. It will no longer appear as a vulnerability, and you can do this for a defined period of time, ranging from 30 days to even a year. Once this time passes, you will get it back in your dashboard right here. And finally, if you are completely certain who you would like to add as a second owner here, you can drill deeper to the details of this team, and then you can simply manually add yourself or any person you believe would be suitable as a second owner, and you have resolved this vulnerability straight from here. Okay, so this is the basic flow. I will briefly show you another one, the ones that I already mentioned. It's an active guest user. So if I select this one, as you know, these users can present a security risk. It's best practices to delete them once your collaboration finished. You can see their name, when this was detected, when they last logged in, and some additional information. Once again, you can accept risk for these users, you can delete them, and I can show you that you can also delete them in bulk, as Daniel mentioned, so you can select a few of them and perform the actions straight from here, or select all of them and delete or accept risk straight from here. Okay. That is all I wanted to show you from this dashboard, and this is how it works. Now let's move on to the second feature Daniel mentioned, policy automations. So we will now navigate to the settings. Under governance, we will find policy automation. As you already know, with Syskit Point, you can manage the entire workspace's lifecycle from its creation or the provisioning to the end of life, which leads to some sort of cleanup actions. But with this update, what you're getting is quite simple but a powerful engine that helps you auto-apply policies to all needed workspaces, but according to the conditions and rules you set up. That is once again important to avoid manual work with managing and applying policies across workspaces, which can lead to some errors. Now let's see how you can actually define those conditions. So for example, I will create a new rule now. At this moment, I would like my rule to take into account all the confidential themes. I will name it like that. Here is where you would add a description. Why is it used? What will affect, and so on, just to make sure that if you have other admins into this, so that they know why you created this rule. But I will just write description for now. What you're selecting next is a priority. In my case, this is a top priority for me, and I want this rule to have #1 priority in my environment. All right, now I need to define the following conditions, the conditions that I just mentioned. So I will select workspace type to be set to Microsoft Teams. I will save this condition, and then I will add another one. That sensitivity label is set to confidential. That is what I need. My workspace must meet all of these conditions above to be included in this rule. Finally, I'm selecting which policies I would like to apply. Daniel mentioned that it's quite often the use case we hear is to set up regular access reviews for the teams that are more confidential or access requests, but since we are talking about minimum number of owners, I'll stick to that and just select that I would need these teams to have a minimum 2 owners. Once I save this and before I create a rule, I can actually hit preview here just to see, okay, but how many workspaces are there that meet my conditions? Which workspaces are we talking about? And then you will get this list to actually be able to see where will all this be applied. Once you create a rule, it is important to mention that every workspace is monitored and included in this process, regardless of how it's created in Point or elsewhere. And once you activate this rule, it will apply policies to your pre-existing workspaces and all the new ones that will be created in your environment in the future, again, depending on these conditions. But if we imagine, or even don't need to imagine, if you're already using Microsoft's Copilot to create new sites, with Point, you don't have to worry about potential chaos or a ton of newly created and unmanaged sites. If they fit these policy automation conditions you create, Point will ensure that they're also properly governed, just like any other site you control. And that brings me to the end of my today's demo. I did talk a lot, but let's get back to Daniel to see all the exciting updates and features that we have in the pipeline. Daniel, back to you.
Thank you, Alex. This was a great demo. So going back to, let's say, our roadmap. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Even though we have released the first versions of security and compliance checks and also policy automation, we will definitely continue to listen to your feedback and based on it, iterate on these functionalities to ensure that they are fully meeting your needs. As Alex mentioned, one of the big things that we have been working on for quite some time now is also storage management. And soon we will be ready to start with the early access program. So if you or let's say your organization is having any challenges with storage, feel free to reach out to us on feedback@syskit.com. We'll be more than happy to show you what we have prepared and also to discuss where, let's say, your main challenges and main problems are. Our goal with storage management is to provide IT teams with more visibility into their storage to better understand, for example, what types of files are being used on SharePoint, what type are they being used or not, how big those files are, how many versions they have, how much storage is consumed by those versions, how much storage is consumed by unused sites. So by doing this, we aim to help IT teams to manage their storage more efficiently, and with that sense, to optimize the storage cost. Also, going forward, depending on how our current research goes, our plan is to support the policy automation with the ability to ask owners to provide missing information about some workspaces so that policies can be applied appropriately through this collaborative workspace reclassification. So for example, you will be able to ask owners to provide, for example, some custom metadata to the workspace, which you can then use going forward as a condition in policy automation when setting up rules. Also, when we are talking about the latest phase of the workspace lifecycle management, and this is the disposal, our research shows that having the ability to ask owners if they still need workspace, depending on different criteria, not just inactivity, will be valuable to most organizations. So, for example, asking an owner if he still needs a team for a certain project after the project end date is due is something that we plan to build into Point depending on how our research with this goes. So as you can see, we have a lot more of future research planned here. So if you have any questions regarding any of the functionality that is currently in our research plans, or you have anything else that you would like us to address in the future, feel free to reach out to us again on feedback@syskit.com so that we can have this discussion about what's important to you and your organizations. As said in the beginning of this call, your feedback has been invaluable to us in guiding us on this journey. So feel free to send us any feedback you might have, positive, negative. This is something that we highly appreciate from any of our customers or potential customers. So that being said, before we jump into the Q&A session, I just wanted to mention that if you liked what you saw and you still don't have a copy of your copy of Syskit Point, you can try it now with our 21-day free trial. There is no commitment needed, so of course, this is something that will help you understand how your environment looks with Syskit Point. So that being said, it's up to the Q&A time now.
All right, I will jump in here, Daniel. We do have a few questions for you to answer. So the first one I'm seeing is there any alert or a warning that is triggered for the teams when IT teams when a vulnerability is detected?
Yes. So let's say all Syskit Point admins will receive a weekly email with all of the vulnerabilities that were detected on their environment. So this is something like I don't know, a weekly digest email that you get from Point saying these are the vulnerabilities that we found, and you can address them through Syskit Point then. Okay. Hope this answers the question.
All right, so the second one is a bit longer, so stay with me. So you mentioned that these functionalities are working together. I'm not quite sure how. Can you please elaborate more on how policy automation and these checks are combined?
Yeah, so if you think of it like this, policy automation is the foundation for all of this. So policy automation will automatically assign policies, for example, minimal owners, orphan workspaces, access review, and based on the conditions that you as an IT team set up. So it can be sensitivity labels, it can be privacy, it can be any custom metadata, whatever you like. So these policies will be automatically applied to all of your workspaces. Security and compliance checks will then read which policy is applied on a particular workspace and perform regular checks to see if there are any violations of these policies. So all of these violations will then be presented in dashboard, and if you set it like that, a task can be sent to the owner. So that's roughly it.
All right. Another one is, how will these rules affect my existing policies?
Okay, so in case there are some policies already applied to the workspaces, either manually or maybe through our provisioning, those policies will remain applied. So they will have a higher priority than the ones that you have assigned through policy automation. This is because you can always go in and maybe pick and choose some of the workspaces that you want to override, let's say, with a manual policy as well. So, and as Alex has shown to you during the demo, you can also track which policies will be applied to which workspaces using the preview functionality within the rule setup. So this is how you can actually monitor all of that. And of course, you can monitor that through more reports that you currently use with Syskit Point.
All right. The next question and the final I'm seeing is, will there be more things that to appear on the security dashboard in the following releases?
So yes, as said, we do plan to continue listening to your feedback, and also we have already listened to some of the feedback previously. So we plan to continuously add more more checks in the future. So, but if you have anything specific that you would find valuable to see on this dashboard, feel free to reach out. We can have a discussion about that. The idea is to grow steady and let's say a vast amount of these checks that will be checked by Syskit Point on a daily basis, so that you can feel confident in your security and compliance state of your environment.
Yeah, This is just the beginning. All right, so no more questions here. Again, if you do have any other, once again, please reach out to us. And I believe we can wrap this up for today.
Okay, so then just thank you for coming. And as said, if you have any feedback, feel free to reach out to us. We are here to listen to your feedback. Okay, perfect. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.